Harlem High's courtyard basked in autumn sun, buzzing with students' laughter and chatter. Jamal Washington, a 12-year-old kid, weaved through the crowd, his worn denim jacket hugging his shoulders, a bold, bald eagle patch with arrows and a striped shield standing out on the back. Suddenly, a water balloon soared through the air, bursting over Jamal's head, water splashing down his jacket and face. Kareem cracked up, nudging Tyler. "Check out that raggedy jacket, now soaked." Jasmine, standing nearby, piled on. "That eagle patch is such a joke." The group's laughter cut like a knife. Jamal froze, water dripping from his hair, a flicker of hurt in his eyes. But he wiped his face, gripped his backpack straps, and headed to his locker. He opened it, gently touching a photo of his grandpa, Leroy Johnson, in his army uniform, smiling down at a younger Jamal. In a world obsessed with the new, this jacket was an outcast. Yet Jamal wore it, unaware that one day everything would shift. The bell rang, kids flooded into class, and Jamal slammed his locker shut, a spark of resolve flashing in his eyes. As dusk settled over Harlem, golden sunlight painted the neighborhood's brick walls red, blending with the faint jazz spilling from an old record shop and the hum of bus horns. Jamal Washington, 12 years old, stepped out of high school, his faded denim jacket clinging to his shoulders, the worn bald eagle patch, arrows and shield intact, still proud on the back. The water from Kareem's balloon had dried, but the sting of humiliation weighed down his steps. Jamal shoved his hands into his pockets, fingers brushing the frayed stitching of the patch, as if it tethered him to something bigger. The Washingtons' apartment sat on the third floor of an old building, the scent of toasted bread from a neighbor's kitchen drifting through the hall. Jamal pushed the door open, soft light from a table lamp warming the living room corner where a small wooden shelf stood proud. On it, a folded American flag in a glass case, a black and white photo of Grandpa Leroy Johnson in his army uniform, and a pair of rusted dog tags etched with his name. Jamal dropped his backpack, his gaze lingering on the photo. Grandpa, stern-faced, but with a warm smile, seemed to look right at him. "Jamal, you eaten yet?" his mom Lisa called from the kitchen. A nurse, she still wore her green scrubs after a long shift. Jamal shook his head, sinking into the sofa, jacket still on. His 7-year-old sister, Amara, bounded out of her room, eyes sparkling. Born deaf, her smile could chase away Jamal's darkest clouds. He raised his hands, signing, "How's your day?" Amara's fingers danced in reply, telling him about a painting she made at school. Jamal grinned, the morning's mocking laughter fading. Lisa stepped out, holding a glass of water, eyeing Jamal. "Wearing Grandpa's jacket again, huh?" Her voice was gentle, laced with pride. Jamal nodded, smoothing the patch. "I like it," he said, a little hesitant. Lisa sat beside him, her gaze settling on the shelf. "That jacket was your grandpa's. Wore it in Iraq, even in that scorching heat. That eagle patch was his unit's, 101st Airborne. Said it reminded him to never leave a man behind." Jamal listened, tracing the patch's stitches. He'd never met Grandpa, but wearing the jacket, he felt its weight like Grandpa was near. "What was he like?" Jamal asked, eyes fixed on the photo. Lisa sighed, her gaze distant. "Tough, but kind. Didn't talk much, but when he did something, he saw it through. He died when I was young, but his legacy, it's still here." She pointed to the jacket, then to Jamal's heart. Amara tugged Jamal's hand, sounding for a story. He laughed, signing back about an eagle soaring over Harlem, inspired by the patch. Amara giggled, clapping. Lisa watched her kids, smiling, though worry flickered in her eyes. "How was school, Jamal?" He shrugged, avoiding her gaze. "Fine," he said, but his voice betrayed unease. He didn't want her knowing about the water balloon or Kareem and Jasmine's laughter. Didn't want her worrying more. That night, Jamal lay in bed, moonlight slipping through the blinds, illuminating the jacket draped over a chair. He thought of Grandpa, of Mom's stories, of the eagle patch. What would Grandpa do if kids threw water balloons at him? Probably stand tall, never bow. Jamal sat up, grabbed the jacket, and ran his fingers over the patch again. It wasn't just old fabric. It was Grandpa's story, his courage, something worth protecting. The next morning, Jamal stood before the mirror, pulling on the jacket. He took a deep breath, eyes fierce with resolve. No matter how rough school got, he wouldn't ditch the jacket. Not because he wasn't scared, but because he wanted to be like Grandpa, a man who never gave up. He stepped out the door, unaware that the days ahead would bring bigger challenges, but also reveal the true meaning of the jacket on his shoulders. Harlem's morning glowed bright, sunlight filtering through sparse tree branches casting dappled shadows across the high school courtyard. Jamal Washington walked in, his old denim jacket hugging his shoulders, the bald eagle patch with arrows and a striped shield glinting in the sun. After yesterday's water balloon incident, he tried to keep his head high, but his eyes stayed wary, scanning the crowd of students near the gate. Rap music thumped from a portable speaker, mixing with lively chatter. Kareem, Tyler, and Jasmine leaned against the fence, their gazes locked on Jamal. "Look, the king of rags is back," Kareem shouted, voice dripping with sarcasm. Tyler laughed, raising his phone to record. "That patch is straight out of the dinosaur age." Jasmine chimed in, hand over her mouth but her grin obvious. The crowd around them snickered, some pointing. Jamal gripped his backpack straps, quickening his pace, trying to slip past, but Kareem didn't let up. "Yo, Jamal, you wearing that to be a hero or just a clown?" In history class, the air felt heavier. As Jamal sat down, he caught whispers from the back. A folded paper landed on his desk. He opened it to find a crude drawing, the eagle from his jacket sporting a backward cap and sunglasses, captioned, "Trash Fashion King." Stifled giggles spread from the corner. Mr. Anderson, the history teacher, hadn't arrived, so no one intervened. Jamal stuffed the paper in his pocket, face burning, eyes glued to his textbook. At lunch, the cafeteria buzzed, smells of fries and pizza thick in the air. Jamal sat alone at a corner table, biting into a sandwich, jacket still on. Kareem, Tyler, and Brandon, another kid from their crew, strolled by with food trays. "Yo, Jamal, ain't you hot? Take that jacket off, we'll help," Kareem said, faint concern in his tone. Before Jamal could react, Tyler yanked the jacket off his shoulders, tossing it to Brandon. "Trash cans, it's home," Brandon laughed, darting toward the bin by the door.
Jamal sprang up, heart pounding. "Give it back," he yelled, voice shaking with anger and fear. He chased after them, but the crowd blocked his path, some laughing, others shaking their heads. Brandon held the jacket high, waving it like a flag, the eagle patch gleaming under the lights. "Want it? Jump, hero," Kareem taunted, shoving Jamal, nearly knocking him over. Just then, Sophia Cruz, a petite classmate with braided hair, pushed through. "Knock it off, you guys! Give him his jacket," she said, voice firm despite her size. Brandon shrugged, tossing the jacket to the floor. "Just messing around, chill," he said, and the group sauntered off, laughing. Jamal picked up the jacket, hands trembling as he brushed dirt off the patch. He looked at Sophia, eyes grateful but heavy with shame. "Thanks," he whispered. She smiled, resting a hand on his shoulder. "They're not worth your time, Jamal. That jacket, it's special, right?" He nodded, saying nothing more. He pulled the jacket back on, its weight heavier than ever. Sophia sat beside him, opening a milk carton, switching the topic to an upcoming math test, as if to pull him from his pain. By gym class, Jamal dodged everyone's stares. He took off the jacket, carefully folding it and placing it in his locker, but unease gnawed at him. When the bell rang, he returned to find the locker empty. The jacket was gone. Jamal stood frozen, breath ragged, feeling like he'd lost a piece of himself. He searched the changing room, checking every corner, but found nothing. A small paper slipped from the locker's vent, scrawled with, "Eagles flown away." Tears welled up, but Jamal clenched his fists, holding them back. He knew Kareem's crew was behind it, but he had no proof. Walking home, Harlem felt grayer, despite the vibrant sun. Jamal's steps dragged, his backpack heavy, but not from books. His grandpa's jacket, the 101st Airborne patch, was the only thing that made him feel close to the grandfather he'd never met. Now it was gone, and he felt like he'd betrayed him. At his apartment door, he hesitated, dreading facing his mom. How could he tell her he'd lost the most precious thing? But as he stepped inside, his eyes landed on the shelf of keepsakes, on Grandpa Leroy's smiling photo. Jamal took a deep breath, vowing to find the jacket, no matter what he had to face.
Night fell over Harlem, dim streetlights filtering through the Washington's apartment window, casting faint glows on the peeling wall. Jamal sat curled on the sofa, his empty stare fixed on the keepsake shelf where Grandpa Leroy Johnson's photo stood tall in his army uniform. The denim jacket, with the bald eagle patch, the only tie to his grandfather, was gone after the school theft. Jamal clenched his fists, nails digging into his palms, fighting the feeling that he'd betrayed something sacred. Lisa, his mom, stepped out of the kitchen, holding a mug of tea, her hair tied high, exhaustion etched from her shift. She sat beside Jamal, her eyes searching. "What's wrong, Jamal? You've been quiet all night." He shrugged, dodging her gaze. He didn't want to talk about the jacket, about how Kareem, Tyler, and Brandon turned it into a joke, or the note in his locker. Eagles flown away. But Lisa wasn't one to let things slide. "Something happened at school, didn't it?" she asked, her voice soft but firm. Jamal sighed, finally speaking. "Grandpa's jacket. It's gone." His voice cracked, as if saying it made it real. Lisa froze, her mug halting midair. "Gone? How?" Jamal recounted, voice trembling, the water balloon, the taunts, and the jacket vanishing from his locker. He bowed his head, ashamed. "I couldn't protect it, Mom. I don't deserve him." Lisa set her mug down, grasping Jamal's hand, her touch warm but steady. "Listen to me. That jacket matters, but not because it's fabric or a patch. It matters because you chose to wear it, because you carry Grandpa's legacy in your heart." Jamal looked up, eyes red. "But at school, they laugh. They call it raggedy, worthless. If I can't keep the jacket, what can I keep?" Lisa stood, touching the photo on the shelf gently. "Your grandpa, Leroy, faced worse than laughter. In Iraq, he led the 101st Airborne through ambushes where no one thought they'd survive. He never gave up, not because he wasn't scared, but because he knew what he was fighting for." She turned, locking eyes with Jamal. "You know what he used to say? Courage isn't being fearless. Courage is doing what's right even when you're afraid."
Jamal listened, but his heart stayed heavy. He pictured the eagle patch, maybe tossed in a trash can or hidden in some dark school corner. "But what do I do, Mom? The jacket's gone. I can't take on Kareem's whole crew." Lisa gave a sad smile. "You don't have to fight alone, but you have to decide. Will you let them take what makes you you, or will you find a way to take it back?" Amara, his 7-year-old sister, slipped out of her room holding a drawing. She held it up, signing, "For you." Jamal looked at it, an eagle soaring over Harlem's sky, its wings bold like the patch on Grandpa's jacket. Amara signed again, "You're strong like the bird." Jamal managed a faint smile, hugging her. Amara's simple drawing was a small light in his darkness. That night, Jamal lay in bed, Amara's drawing by his pillow. He stared at the ceiling, mind spinning. Could he be as brave as Grandpa, or was he just a kid who couldn't save a jacket? He thought of Mom's words, that the legacy wasn't in the fabric, but in his heart. Still, doubt filled him. Giving up the search, would that betray Grandpa? Facing Kareem, did he have the strength? Morning came and Jamal woke uneasy. Standing before the mirror, no jacket to wear, just a plain gray tee, he felt hollow, like part of him was missing. But as he stepped out, Amara signed from the living room, "You're gonna find the bird, right?" Jamal paused, taking a deep breath. He nodded, unsure where to start. "Yeah, I'll try," he signed back, his mom's words echoing in his head. "Courage is doing what's right, even when you're afraid." He stepped into Harlem's bustle, bus horns and coffee shop aromas filling the air. He carried Amara's drawing in his backpack, a reminder. He didn't know how to find the jacket, but he wouldn't let fear stop him from trying. No matter how harsh school was or how much Kareem's crew mocked him, Jamal wouldn't bow. Unbeknownst to him, something unexpected lay ahead, ready to change everything.
Memorial Day morning in Harlem sparkled with flags, tiny American banners fluttering on balconies. Jamal Washington walked into high school, heart heavy. His grandpa's denim jacket with its bald eagle patch was still missing after Kareem's crew stole it. But thanks to Sophia Cruz, he found it that morning in a gym corner, crumpled and smeared with mud. Jamal brushed off the patch, smoothing its frayed stitches, feeling like he'd reclaimed a piece of his heart. He pulled the jacket on, bracing for classmates' sneers, and entered the auditorium where the ceremony was about to start. The hall buzzed with students, teachers, and parents, solemn under banners reading, "Honor Our Heroes." Jamal sat in the back row, trying to blend in. Sophia beside him whispered, "You okay? That jacket looks good." He gave a faint smile, clutching the jacket's hem. On stage, the principal introduced a special guest, General Samuel Carter, a tall, silver-haired veteran of the 101st Airborne Division who served in Iraq. Carter's sharp eyes gleamed, his uniform studded with medals. Carter began his speech, his deep voice recounting soldiers who died for their country. Jamal listened, his gaze falling on his eagle patch, identical to the emblem on Carter's badge. Suddenly, Carter paused, scamming the crowd, his eyes locking on Jamal. "You! Back row!" he called, voice strong yet warm. "The kid with the jacket, come up here!" The auditorium fell silent, all eyes on Jamal. He stood, heart pounding, and walked to the stage, gripping the jacket like it might vanish again. Carter studied the patch, softening his gaze. "This patch, it's 101st Airborne, my unit. Where'd you get it?" Jamal swallowed hard, voice shaky. "My grandpa's, sir. Leroy Johnson. He was in Iraq." Carter froze as if hearing a name from a distant past. "Leroy Johnson," he repeated, voice low. "You're Leroy's grandson?" Jamal nodded, avoiding his eyes. Carter turned to the crowd, emotion thickening his voice. "Leroy Johnson was our team's hero. In 2004, during a Baghdad ambush, Leroy pulled me and 3 others from the jaws of death. He drove through gunfire, fearless, to get us to safety. This eagle patch isn't just the 101st symbol, it's courage, it's sacrifice." The room went still, then scattered claps grew into a roaring ovation. Jamal stood, face burning, tears welling. He'd never heard the story, only knowing his grandpa as a hero through his mom. Carter put a hand on his shoulder, meeting his eyes. "You wear this jacket, you're carrying Leroy's legacy. Don't let anyone shame you for it." Jamal nodded, throat tight, unable to speak. Kareem, Tyler, and Jasmine, seated mid-row, looked down, avoiding his gaze. Sophia grinned, clapping hard from the back. Carter pulled a small box from his pocket, revealing a gleaming silver medal. "This is Leroy's Bronze Star, awarded after his sacrifice. I kept it to give his family one day." He handed it to Jamal, his hand trembling slightly. "It's yours now." Jamal took it, fingers brushing the cold metal, feeling his grandpa beside him. He whispered, "Thank you." As Jamal left the stage, applause echoed. He returned to his seat, clutching the medal, the jacket feeling lighter on his shoulders. Sophia squeezed his hand, whispering, "Proud yet?" Jamal nodded, realizing the eagle patch wasn't just fabric, it was a story worth protecting. But he still didn't know how to face Kareem's crew or share his grandpa's story. Carter closed his speech with an invitation. "Tomorrow at the school festival, I want this kid to tell his story. Who's with me?" Cheers erupted, even from students who'd mocked Jamal. He looked at the medal, then pictured his grandpa's photo. A sparklet inside him, a chance to prove his grandpa's legacy and his own couldn't be doused by taunts or water balloons. Walking home, Harlem seemed brighter, though dusk was falling. Jamal passed vibrant graffiti gripping the medal. He thought of his mom Amara, her eagle drawing. He'd tell his story, not just for Grandpa, but for himself. But he didn't yet know tomorrow would change even more.
The Harlem High School Festival burst with color, the courtyard alive with game booths, the scent of popcorn mingling with student jazz band tunes. American flags waved on poles, a nod to the recent Memorial Day. Jamal Washington stood in the crowd, his denim jacket snug on his shoulders, the bald eagle patch glinting in the afternoon sun. The Bronze Star Medal from his grandpa, Leroy Johnson, given by General Samuel Carter yesterday, rested safely in his pocket like a talisman. Jamal clenched his fists, heart racing, knowing today he'd face the whole school. The auditorium was packed, students and teachers crammed into seats, parents lining the aisles. General Carter, crisp in his uniform, stood on stage, his sharp eyes scanning the crowd. Today we honor not just fallen heroes, but those who keep their legacies alive, he said, voice booming. I'd like a special student to come up. Jamal Washington, where are you? Murmurs rippled, fingers pointed. Jamal took a deep breath, weaving through the rows, hundreds of eyes heavy on him. Sophia Cruz, nearby, flashed a thumbs up, her smile encouraging. Jamal stepped onto the stage, hand trembling as it brushed the patch. Carter smiled, resting a hand on his shoulder. This kid carries a proud legacy. Jamal, tell us about that jacket. Jamal swallowed hard, scanning the crowd. Kareem, Tyler, and Jasmine sat mid-row, their eyes curious, not mocking.
He cleared his throat, voice shaky at first, but growing steady. "This jacket? It was my grandpa's, Leroy Johnson. He fought in Iraq with the 101st Airborne. This patch is his unit's, a symbol of courage. I wear it to remember him, to be like him." The room fell quiet, only the soft hum of ceiling fans. Jamal continued, voice thick with emotion. "Kids tease me about this jacket, said it's old, torn, out of style. Someone even stole it." He glanced briefly at Kareem, not accusing. "But yesterday, General Carter told me how Grandpa saved his team. I realized this jacket isn't just fabric, it's his story, and I want to keep it alive." He pulled the medal from his pocket, holding it up, light catching the silver. "This is his Bronze Star. I'll never be ashamed to carry it." Applause erupted, tentative at first, then a tidal wave filling the hall. Mr. Anderson, the history teacher, stood, clapping hard. Sophia cheered, eyes shining. Kareem looked down, rubbing his hands, wrestling with himself. Tyler and Jasmine exchanged glances, their smirks gone. Carter nodded, voice rising. "Jamal's right. Courage isn't about looks. It's what you carry in your heart. This kid proves it." Jamal stepped off the stage, his steps lighter, as if a weight had lifted. Students crowded around, some patting his shoulder, a girl saying, "Your jacket's dope, Jamal." Mr. Anderson approached, smiling. "I'll talk about your grandpa in history class next week. You did great." Jamal nodded, pride creeping in, but unease lingered. Though recognized, his journey wasn't over. Kareem's crew remained a concern, and he wanted them to understand, not just feel awkward. After the festival, Jamal and Sophia sat on a courtyard bench, munching popcorn. Sophia chewed slowly, eyeing him. "You were awesome up there. They won't mess with you now." Jamal shrugged, smoothing the patch. "I'm not sure. Kareem hasn't said anything. I want him to get it, not just stop." Sophia nodded, touching his shoulder. "You've started something. They'll come around. Just give it time." As the sun set, Harlem glowed orange, a saxophone's wail echoing from a street corner. Jamal walked home, medal in his pocket, jacket hugging his shoulders. He recalled his mom's words, "Courage is doing what's right even when you're afraid." Today, he'd done that, but he wanted more, for the school, for Harlem, to know his grandpa's story. He didn't yet know that tomorrow, a bigger chance to do so would come, beyond anything he'd imagined.
A cool Harlem morning filtered sunlight through the history classroom window, dusting the chalk-covered blackboard. Jamal Washington stood before the class, clutching a stack of old letters and black and white photos, his denim jacket snug, the bald eagle patch gleaming. The Bronze Star medal from his grandpa, Leroy Johnson, tucked in his pocket, echoed his festival speech. Today, Mr. Anderson had asked Jamal to present on a historical figure, and he chose his grandpa, not just to share, but to make the class, even Kareem, grasp the patch's meaning. Mr. Anderson sat in the corner, nodding encouragement. Sophia Cruz, front row, smiled, pen poised for notes. Kareem, Tyler, and Jasmine sat farther back, their gazes no longer mocking, but cautious. Jamal took a deep breath, opening the brittle, yellowed letters with a rustle. "Today, I'm talking about my grandpa, Leroy Johnson," he began, voice steadier than at the festival. "He was a soldier in the 101st Airborne, fighting in Iraq. He wasn't just General Samuel Carter's hero, but his whole team's." Jamal held up a photo, Leroy in uniform beside a Jeep, beaming. "This is my grandpa, before Baghdad in 2004. He passed it to Sophia, who carefully shared it with the class. He wrote these letters to my grandma about his team, days he thought he wouldn't come home." Jamal read a passage, voice deliberate. "Today, we saved a young soldier. He's got family back home, and I knew I had to get him there. The eagle on my jacket reminds me never to leave anyone behind." He paused, touching his own patch, feeling his grandpa's presence. The room was silent, save for the clock's ticking. Jamal went on, voice thick. "My grandpa died soon after that mission, but he saved 4 men, including General Carter. This patch," he touched his jacket, "was his promise. Never abandon your team.
no matter the cost. He held up the bronze star, light catching the metal. I used to be ashamed of this jacket because kids laughed, but now I know it's not just a jacket, it's his story, and I won't let it be forgotten. Sophia clapped first, the class joining, applause echoing. Mr. Anderson stood, eyes proud. Outstanding, Jamal. We'll study the 101st Airborne next week, and this is our starting point. But Jamal wasn't done. He looked at Kareem, not with anger, but resolve. I know some thought this jacket was a joke. I don't blame them. I just want everyone to know what it means to me. Kareem looked down, gripping his pen. Tyler and Jasmine exchanged uneasy glances. After class, as students filed out, Kareem approached Jamal, hands in pockets, voice halting. Yo, Jamal, I'm sorry. I didn't know about your grandpa. That jacket? It ain't raggedy. I was wrong. Jamal froze, stunned by the apology. He nodded, voice soft. Thanks. I just wanted y'all to know who he was. Kareem shrugged, offering a faint smile, then walked off. Tyler and Jasmine lingered nearby, silent, their eyes no longer mocking. Sophia slapped Jamal's shoulder, grinning. You nailed it. The whole class was moved. Jamal smiled, but his thoughts lingered on Kareem. The apology was a start, but he wanted more. For all of Harlem to know his grandpa. He packed the letters and photos carefully, medal in his pocket. In the hallway, a few kids waved, one shouting, Yo, Jamal, that eagle jacket's fire! He grinned, the patch feeling proud, not heavy, for the first time. That night at their apartment, Jamal recounted everything to his mom, Lisa, and sister Amara. Lisa hugged him, eyes shining. You make me proud, Jamal. Your grandpa would be too. Amara, on the sofa, signed, You're the eagle. Jamal laughed, signing back, Thanks, little bird. He handed Amara her eagle drawing, now taped beside the keepsake shelf. Leroy's photo smiled from its frame, as if watching it all. As Harlem glowed under streetlights, Jamal sat by the window, gazing at vibrant graffiti. He reflected on his journey, from water balloons and a stolen jacket to the festival stage and today's class. He'd overcome shame, faced Kareem, and shared his grandpa's story. But this wasn't the end. He wanted something bigger, to keep Leroy's legacy alive, not just in his heart, but across the community.
A late autumn afternoon in Harlem glowed softly. Sunlight draping vibrant graffiti murals along the streets, a saxophone's wail drifting from a corner cafe. Jamal Washington, now more confident, walked the familiar path, his denim jacket snug, the bald eagle patch with arrows and shield gleaming proudly. The Bronze Star medal from his grandpa, Leroy Johnson, rested in his pocket, a reminder of his journey, from water balloons and a stolen jacket to the festival stage and history class. Harlem High no longer felt like a place to fear. Kareem, Tyler, and Jasmine had stopped their taunts. After Kareem's apology in history class, the group slowly changed. One day, Tyler raised his hand in class, asking Mr. Anderson about the 101st Airborne, curiosity replacing mockery. Jasmine, now friendlier, gave Jamal a drawing of an eagle, saying, I made this because of your jacket. Jamal smiled, tucking it into his backpack beside Amara's drawing. The bullying ceased, not out of fear, but because the class began to understand the story behind the patch. Sophia Cruz remained Jamal's steadfast friend. One lunch in the cafeteria, she sat beside him sharing pizza. See, Jamal, people look at you differently now, she said, nodding toward students waving from another table. Jamal nodded, smoothing the patch. I didn't expect this. I just wanted to keep my grandpa's story alive. Sophia grinned. You did more than that. You made the school proud. Harlem's community also began honoring Leroy Johnson's legacy. Inspired by Jamal's presentation, Mr. Anderson organized a small exhibit in the school library, displaying Leroy's photos, letters, and 101st Airborne history. A plaque read, In memory of Leroy Johnson, Harlem's hero. General Samuel Carter, back at his base, sent Jamal a thank you letter, promising to share Leroy's story in his talks. The letter, pinned by the exhibit, drew students and parents to visit. At their apartment, Jamal sat on the sofa, telling his mom, Lisa, and sister Amara about the exhibit. Lisa hugged him, eyes shining in pride. You brought your grandpa back to everyone, Jamal. He's smiling. Amara, beside him, signed, You are a hero like Grandpa. Jamal laughed, signing back, Nah, I'm just your brother. He handed Amara her framed eagle drawing, now hung beside the keepsake shelf. Leroy's photo in his army uniform seemed to glow under the table lamp alongside the folded American flag and rusted dog tags. One weekend evening, Harlem hosted a street festival celebrating the neighborhood's culture and history. Jamal was invited to represent the school and speak about his grandpa.
Under outdoor stage lights, he stood before hundreds, residents, kids, even those who'd seen him mocked. Wearing the jacket, mic in hand, his voice rang clear. My grandpa, Leroy Johnson, fought for his country, for his team. I used to think this jacket was just old fabric, but now I know it's a story of courage. I want Harlem to remember him, like I do. The crowd roared with applause, cheers echoing off red brick buildings. An elderly veteran approached Jamal, shaking his hand. Your grandpa would be proud, kid. Lisa and Amara stood below the stage, Amara signing, You're awesome. Kareem, Tyler, and Jasmine were there, blending into the crowd, their eyes now respectful. Sophia, nearby, recorded on her phone, beaming. As the festival faded, Jamal walked Harlem's streets, golden streetlights catching the patch. He reflected on his journey, from the shame of water balloons and a stolen jacket to the pride of addressing his community. He'd not only preserved his grandpa's legacy, but inspired Harlem. The patch was no longer a target for ridicule. It was a symbol of courage, of a boy who stood up for what was right. He paused before a new graffiti mural, a massive eagle, wings spread, mirroring his patch. Below it, handwritten text read, Leroy Johnson, Harlem's Eagle. He smiled, touching the medal in his pocket. He knew challenges lay ahead, but he'd always wear this jacket, carrying his grandpa's story and his own, wherever he went.
Spring swept into Harlem, bringing warm breezes and green buds along the boulevard's trees. Jamal Washington, now 13, walked the familiar streets, his denim jacket snug, the bald eagle patch with arrows and shield worn, but proud. The Bronze Star medal from his grandpa, Leroy Johnson, sat in a glass case on the family's keepsake shelf, but his story lived in Jamal's heart and the community. Harlem was no longer a place where he ducked mocking stares. It was where he found the strength to stand tall. At Harlem High, Jamal was a key member of the History Club, formed by Mr. Anderson after the Leroy Johnson exhibit. The club hosted talks where students shared family and community stories. One afternoon, Jamal stood before the group, reading from his grandpa's yellowed letters. My grandpa said, the eagle never leaves a teammate behind. I want us to be like that in Harlem, never leaving anyone behind. Classmates nodded, some taking notes, eyes bright with inspiration. Kareem, Tyler, and Jasmine were now friends, though not as close as Sophia Cruz. Kareem, once the water balloon ringleader, joined the History Club, sharing about his uncle, a 9/11 firefighter. One day, he clapped Jamal's shoulder, grinning. You paved the way, man. Thanks. Jamal smiled, touching his patch. No, my grandpa did. Tyler and Jasmine pitched in too, helping repaint the Harlem Eagle graffiti mural, now a neighborhood landmark. Sophia remained Jamal's closest ally. Together, they ran an ASL workshop at school, teaching basic signs. In one session, Jamal showed the class how to sign courage, fingers moving swiftly like when he talked with Amara. ASL isn't just words, it's connection, like my jacket connects me to my grandpa. Sophia signed, Jamal's a great teacher. The class laughed, clapped, and Jamal blushed, but joy filled him. Harlem kept honoring Leroy Johnson. The Harlem Eagle mural became a symbol, drawing tourists for photos. A scholarship in Leroy's name, backed by General Samuel Carter, was created for Harlem students excelling in academics and community work. Jamal, the first recipient, used it for a history summer camp in Washington, D.C., learning about American military heroes, feeling closer to his grandpa. At home, Jamal sat with Lisa and Amara, sharing future plans. Lisa, now head nurse, smiled at his growth. You've done things I never imagined, Jamal, she said, ruffling his hair. Amara, now 9, signed, What big thing next? Jamal grinned, signing back, Tell Grandpa's story to the world. He hung a new photo on the keepsake shelf, Jamal before the Eagle mural, in his jacket with Sophia and Amara. Leroy's photo glowed under the lamp, beside the folded flag and rusted dog tags. One evening, Harlem's Spring Festival lit up the streets with twinkling lights, drums, and jazz. Jamal was invited to speak, no longer nervous like his first festival.
In his jacket, mic in hand, he faced hundreds: Lisa, Amara, Sophia, Kareem, and Harlem residents. "Harlem is my home," he said, voice clear. "My grandpa Leroy Johnson taught me courage is standing for what's right, no matter how hard. I want us to keep stories like his alive, so Harlem stays a place for eagles." The crowd cheered, phone lights sparkling like stars. Lisa wiped tears. Amara signed, "You're the eagle." Sophia filmed, posting the speech online, where it spread, touching thousands beyond Harlem. General Carter, watching from afar, messaged, "Leroy would be proud, Jamal. Keep soaring." Jamal read it, smiling, touching his patch. As the festival ended, Jamal stood before the eagle mural, moonlight glowing on its wings. He reflected on his journey, from a kid ashamed of a raggedy jacket through hurt to inspiring a community. The eagle patch wasn't just his grandpa's legacy. It was Jamal's, a Harlem boy who dared to soar despite challenges. He took a deep breath, stepping into the night, knowing his and his grandpa's story would echo on.